Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Sever7, and today we are taking a deeper look at the Orbital Knives Calysto. I've spent the last couple of days with this, and I feel like I've gotten to know it pretty well. I know in my overview video of it, I talked a little bit about this knife, kind of feeling like it was greater than the sum of its parts. Because on paper, you might just glance over this knife and think materials, money, is the value there for me, blah, blah, blah. And that's fair, right? Because I do the same thing. But having gotten to experience this knife, I can tell you that this is an exception to that rule. So let's jump into it. You're rocking, for the blade steel, 14C 28N. I will be forever confused as to why this is a budget steel, and if somebody wants to tell me why in the comments, that would be awesome. But with 14C28, we've got a 3 out of 10 for edge retention, right? So it's not going to stay sharp long. However, we have an 8 out of 10 for ease of sharpening, which means touch it up on a strop and you're ready to rock and roll all over again. Corrosion resistance is higher than LMAX at 8.5 out of 10, whereas LMAX is an 8 out of 10. And then toughness is 9 out of 10. So not only is it corrosion resistant, it's tough as nails, and it's easy as all get out to sharpen. The only thing is that it's got poor edge retention, but with it being that easy to sharpen, who cares, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, like if you're somebody that doesn't know how to sharpen or doesn't want to build that skill, I can understand that. 14C might not be the best option for you, but when you're talking, you can just bust out a strop, which is a piece of wood with a piece of leather on it, throw some compound on there, and you could touch this up with just a few. I did it like I had a strop. You can touch it up with just a few passes though, and then get right back to work, right? So, with 14C28N scoring so high in all these categories, I just don't understand why it's a budget steel. I'm sure there's an easy answer to it, so please, somebody down in the comments, just let me know. Now, as far as the ergonomics, comfort, and grip, so this is a relatively small knife, right? We're not dealing with a lot of real estate. So I wear large size gloves, and I can get a little tight, but I can get a 4-finger grip on this knife, right? I don't have a whole lot of room left over, and we don't have a choke up position. But the 4-finger grip I can get is fine. It's comfortable. I was doing box cutting. I was opening letters, cutting paper, stuff like that. I didn't have an issue with it. Now, we don't have any chamfering. We don't have, like, these edges aren't really knocked down, but I think that was the reason they might have gone with micarta, because micarta is a little more pliable than like a G10 is. And I can feel that, because I'm not the first person to use this, but I can feel that over time, these edges have naturally kind of knocked themselves down, right? If you compare the edge up here where people hold on to it versus like the edge up here where nobody touches it, you can tell that these have kind of started to knock themselves down a little bit, which means while you might have a breaking period right when you buy the knife, after some use, the knife is just gonna naturally get more comfortable for you, right? The more you use it, the more comfortable it's gonna get. So I don't know what this knife is like right out of the box, so I can't speak to it. It might come out comfortable and then just get more comfortable, or it might come out and be a little sharp on the edges. But overall, I can say my experience with this, as far as the grip and the comfort, has been just fine. Now, carry profile, obviously, this is not a large knife. So this thing, you could go jogging with it. You could carry it in a shirt pocket, to be totally honest with you. It's just not a cumbersome knife. It does take 2 hands to get it in and out of the pocket. I couldn't one-hand it. Part of that's because it's a short clip, and shorter clips are going to be a lot tighter than longer clips. But also, if you look at where the clip is, how much real estate the clip has contacting the scale, there's a lot there, right? There's a lot of clip to scale surface area to overcome before it's actually in your pocket, and that's part of the reason you can't one-hand it. So whenever you put it in your pocket, you're going to be grabbing your pocket and then shoving this in. And then, you know, if you're willing to yank, you know, you can probably get it out of the pocket with one hand. With this being micarta, it's not going to shred the pants, right? So, I mean, if you do have to yank, you'll be perfectly fine doing that. As far as smoothness, the knife is smooth. We're talking fairly drop shut down to the finger or down to the thumb, and then one shake to close. As far as the lockup goes, I'd say we have about a 20% lockup. You could adjust that to be a little bit more if you wanted to. Let me give this a quick whack. Okay, yeah, we're fine. That's plenty enough lockup. But it's smooth. Lockup is solid. We know for sure now because I just whacked it pretty generously. No side to side, no back and front to back. This is locked up like a goddamn pin fault. Just like every other knife that's ever been reviewed is, except for like one. Fidget factor. So I think that's somewhere that this knife shines, because you only have one form of deployment, right? It's the best. But reverse flick, very satisfying, very audible, very clicky. Thumb roll, slow roll is very satisfying. Listen to this. We almost have like 2 clicks in there. And then we have a little more a tactile, like whenever we disengage this, listen. I don't know if you're catching that over the, there we go. But it's very clicky, very satisfying to use. And then actual thumb flick, money, right? Action on this, it's just an easy knife to manipulate and carry. Now, you know, what are some things that I love about this knife? You know, it really is greater than some of its parts. You look on a piece of paper and you see micarta 14C28N, and then you see the price tag, $89. Then it's like, okay, well, I have C28N and micarta for like, you know, $55, $60. And it's like, well, yeah, you'd be right. And $90 isn't a small amount of money. There's a lot of competition in that tier. A lot of competition. But what I can say, what this knife is doing right, though, is delivering a holistic experience for EDC, right? It's going to fit your hand. Despite being small, it's going to give you a full-size knife carry. It's going to give you a phenomenal blade steel that's good at literally everything except edge retention. It's going to be super fidgety, super smooth, light, easy carry profile. I mean, if you were to compare this, I would say that this has a lot of things about it to love that the Bug Out does. Lightweight, fidgety, good materials, right? And that knife's $180. This is literally half that cost. Not only that, but this is Orbital Knives is the company that produces this, and this is their first knife. They're working on a second one, right? So you also have to think that whenever companies come out of the gate, prices are a little bit higher, right? They have to pay for everything they're doing with just this one knife. You know what I'm saying? So that's the other thing too, is you're contributing to, you know, to a new, younger startup knife company. And that always feels good too. Like if I could pay, you know, an extra $10, knowing that I was doing that instead of just like, you know, feeding this already fine company. Don't get me wrong, I love companies like Kaiser and companies like Concept, but I'm not really doing them any favors, right? I'm buying their knife, but without me, they're fine. With Orbital Knives, though, it's like every knife you purchase is pumping that lifeblood into them, right? to keep them going, make them hungrier. You know, and I think that's awesome. I think that's definitely a feels good for me. You know, the knife community is super tight, and you know, knowing that somebody struck out there, put a knife together, did an excellent job. You can tell that this knife was made by somebody that carries knives, that uses knives, that loves knives, because there is so much detail crammed into every crevice of this knife at such a low price. Well, I shouldn't say such a low price, but at an affordable price. You know, that it's almost silly. There might be discount codes for this. I'm not entirely sure if there are or not. I know I don't have one, and I haven't gotten to speak to Orbital Knives. So, but if I do find one, I'll stick it down in the description with a link to this knife. The things that I would like to see improved, because this knife isn't perfect. I think it's great, but it's not perfect. I would like to see either this pocket clip extended just a hair to give it a little more flexibility. I'd like to see a little less contact from the clip to the scale. That way it's easier to kind of go in and out of the pocket one-handed. I would like to see more scale options. Right now there's this kind of reddish micarta. There's a blue micarta, like a blue denim. And then there's a like a G-Mascus, a black and red G-Mascus. I would really love to see like a satin and aluminum, right? I think that would be fantastic. Or even the two micartas are stonewashed, but the one G-Mascus is a black blade. You know, but I would love to see some more premium materials. I would love to see this in stonewashed titanium with a hand satin or a belt satin. I think that would be incredibly cool. And you could put that sucker 14C28N, a hand satin or belt satin finish, titanium titanium skills, baby. Titanium scales. You know, you could kick this up to $140 and I'd pay it all day long, right? So, you know, and those things I'm sure will come with time, but yeah, just more options for me, a little bit friendlier of a pocket clip, and that's really it. You know, that's what I'd like to see. Is this knife recommendable? It has a tremendous amount of competition at $89, right? Because you're looking at things like the Civivi's Vision FG, right? Which is going to come in, you know, $15 cheaper. That's a stupid good value. You're going to be looking at things like the Praxis from Civivi as well. You're going to be looking at offerings from Kaiser, like some of their Militaws, right? There's a lot of stiff competition. So is this knife recommendable? 100%. Yeah, I'm confident if you get this, you will be very, very happy with it. With that being said, though, I can't recommend this over everything in its price point because there's so many good options out there that it is really hard, especially for a newer knife, to compete until you get it in hand. Once you get it in hand, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, this definitely competes. But if you haven't experienced it, then it's a little bit easier to overlook, which is unfortunate. So I would say, if anything about this knife or anything that I've said about it excites you or you like, give it a shot. I don't think you're gonna regret it, right? But if you look at this knife and you think, well, Civivi Vision FG or the, you know, the Concept Fenrir, you know, is out there and about the same price, a little bit lower, I really couldn't fault you for going that route because those knives are excellent. So, so while this knife is recommendable, and while I do enjoy it very much, it's hard to say that this is the best bang for its buck until we see, you know, maybe an upgrade on scale material, some more innovations, slightly easier to use pocket clip, and that's about it. So, but that's really all we have for this video. Tell me in the comments, what do you think? Is this knife something that would make it to your collection? Is this something that you would use in your daily rotation? If you could, and I'm sure Orbital Knives will pop into the comments to check it out, but if you could make any changes to this knife, or if you want to see upgrades in the future to it, what would those be? I'd be fine keeping the 14C and just giving it titanium scales. I'd love that. Well, and you know, some sort of satin finish would be awesome. But yeah, let me and let Orbital Knives know in the comments what upgrades or changes you'd like to see. Other than that, if you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe for more content like this. Follow me on Instagram at SEVRSEVN, that's Sever7. That'll be linked in the description, as well as a link for this knife. So that's it for this one, guys. Until next time, stay sharp.